Hello and welcome to my tutorial for ELAN. ELAN is an annotation tool for audio and video recordings. And today we will be learning how we can first download ELAN and then sync up time series CSV files to ELAN. So let's get started. First, we're going to download it from this website, which will be linked in the description. I have a Windows computer, so I'm going to download it for Windows, but you can download it for your OS. And we're just going to wait for a second for it to download. We're going to open this up, double click this, and it should run the installer. Let's open it up. We can just run it in the search bar right here. And if you get this blank screen right here with this top bar right here and the rest is blank, then you're in the right spot. So now we're going to take a look at the data that we are going to be annotating. I have my data here in this folder on my computer. And this is the video. This is just a guy walking back and forth in a straight line. You can see he's wearing this device here, which checks his movement. And that will be in our CSV file. You can just close this. And here's our CSV file. Right here, we have this time column. And these values are in seconds. This is the way that the data was given to me. I did change the format of this data in a Python file from where I got it. You can find this data in the link in the description. It is fully open source. But this time values are in seconds. And this was the way that I found I could sync it up to ELAN. And here we have just some other columns with data. Right, let's go back into ELAN. Here, we're going to press File and New. And here's where we can transport our data to ELAN. We can change the file format here. I'm just going to press All Files. And here we can see both our MP4 and CSV. Now, we're only going to import our MP4. If you have other data like audio data or any data in these other formats you can see right here, then this is where you would import it. And we can press this to import it right here. Note that we're not going to add our CSV data right now. We're going to add it through a different method later on. Here's also where you can add a template if you would like to configure data in a certain way that you had set up previously. You can do it there. We're going to press OK. And once we do that, we will have this UI that pops up. You can see that we can select different times in the video by selecting it just like this. And we can add an annotation to this by double clicking on this. I'm going to get rid of this annotation. Whoops. You can see here we have other settings. You can change the volume of the video. You can also change how fast it goes. Here you can play and start and stop the video. I mean, there's also other ways you can mess with the video, like you can go back to the beginning. Here's ways you can play the video, but in relation to your selection. And then here there are different tabs for annotating. You can add comments to your video, and you can change the lexicon. You might get this pop-up right here, cannot create a backup file, save the file first. And this is because ELAN automatically has backups running. You can see here, we have it on for backups. And we're just going to save the file. I'm going to name it as ELAN tutorial. and it saves it as a .eaf file. All right, let's see how we can import our CSV data. First, we're going to press Edit, and then we're going to press Linked Files. Here you can see our video that we imported, and if you wanted to add some audio to this or another video, you can press Add right here. We're going to press Linked Secondary Files to add our CSV. We're going to press Add, and we are going to press on our CSV, which is right here. And now we're going to press Apply. And once you do that, we get this media time series player right here. Now the way you can add your time series data in a graph to right here is we're going to right click anywhere on this panel right here. And then we're going to press Configure Tracks. Let me expand this out a little bit to see what's going on. All right, so this sample table is a header of your data. You can see we have our time column right here, and then some of the other metrics that we had. This is a large CSV, so there are a lot of columns that we have right here. And I'm mostly interested in this fourth column right here called pelvis rotation. Here you can change the index of the time column. Here we have it in column 1, so we don't need to change this. Here we have this section called current tracks, and when you add a track, it will show up here. This is the way you add a track. There's 3 different tabs here. You can add one in this tab, and you can change and delete tracks using these tabs. This first bar is redundant for the add a track tab. And now we're just going to name a track. This track I want to be correlated with this fourth column, pelvis rotation. So I'm just going to name it pelvis rotation. I can add a description to this. So I'm going to say this is pelvis rotation. And this column part is the most important part of this. This chooses the column that we want associated with this track. And our pelvis rotation data is in this fourth column, so we're going to set this to the number 4. Here, I like pressing this. This just chooses the minimum and maximum value that can show up in your graph, and we want all of this in here. You can also change the units right here, but pelvis rotation is an angle, and I'm not really sure what the units are on this, so I'm just going to leave this blank. And you can also choose track color right here. I'm going to make this a blue. So we can press Add, and then we can close this. And now you can see here we have this track. So let's see if this is working and it's synced up to our data. We can go back to the beginning by pressing this button. And I'm gonna just get this out of the way. And I'm going to make this video a little bigger. So let's press play. So he starts walking right here in a straight line. And then he turns. And when he turns, this pelvis rotation goes up. He walks the other way, it's flat. And then when he turns, the pelvis rotation goes down. And then he keeps going back and forth. Awesome. This is amazing. This is how we know that our data and our video are synced correctly. Next week, we can add more tracks to this. So I'm going to right click on this again. I'm going to press Configure Tracks again. And let's add another column from our table to this. Let's add the pelvis tilt value, which is column 2. So I'm going to go here. You don't need to select a track for this. This is, again, only relevant for change and delete. And I'm going to change this to pelvis tilt. I'm going to change our description to this is pelvis tilt. And this is column 2 in our CSV. I'm going to keep this the same, and I'll change the color to this orange. Press Add. and we'll close. Now you notice it didn't pop up here, and that is because we need to add another track panel. We can do this by right-clicking again and pressing Add Track Panel. And then we can right-click on this. We can go to Track Panel. We can press Add Track, and we can add our pelvis tilt. Great. So now we have two different columns in our CSV here as a graph that we can use for annotations. You can also keep adding more track panels if you had more columns. And then you can also remove them. You can also press this, add track panel for each track. And however many tracks you have, it will add a new track panel which shows this data. You can also overlap this data on the same track panel by right-clicking on a track panel, going here, and then you can add as many tracks as you want to the same panel. This data is way out of range. These are different scaled values, but you can see here both data values are present here. And then if you wanted to remove one, you can go here and remove that there. This is kind of wonky, but you get how it works. All right. There we go. Now it's reset. All right. Now let me show you how you can add annotations to this data. There are many different ways you can configure the tiers, which are right here, and also the types. I won't go over that in this tutorial. However, there are many tutorials online that go over how to do this. For now, let me just create a simple tier setup. I'm going to go to here. I'm going to press Edit Controlled Vocabularies. I'm going to change this to movement, add, and I'll add some different movement values. I'm going to say rotation and head nod. I'm going to close this. I'm going to go type, add new tier type, type name. Let's do movement. And I'm going to use this controlled vocabulary. Press add. I'm going to new tier. It's right here. And I'll just call this person movement. This participant, I don't know his name. I'll call him Bob. And annotator, that's just you. So I'll just put my initials. You can change the tier type right here to movement. And there we go. Now it shows up right here. You can close this. And I'm just going to get rid of this default tier. Delete tier default. Delete. Type. Delete tier type. Default. Amazing. We have set this up. Feel free to skip that section. All right. Now we want to annotate this data. The way we can do that is we can select a bit of our time. You can double click on this, and we set this up so that way there are two different options for our movement, and we're going to label this as rotation. And press this, and now this part of the video is annotated with the word rotation. We can do this again for over here when it rotates. Double click rotation. Here, maybe he nods his head, so I'll put that there. And I'll add this other rotation right here. Great. And there are other ways you can annotate this data. You can add comments right here. Let me see this. They can add. There's also many different ways you can set up the tier and the type. However, this will just work for now. All right. Now let me show you how you can save this as a new CSV file. You can press File, and I'm going to save this one more time. You can press Export As. Oops. And then I like using this part right here that is titled Tab Delineated Text. Now, there are ways you can configure this, but the way I found to be the most helpful to me was I just left this the same by tier names. And then I go down here and I choose what I want in my CSV. In the time column, I'll have the begin time, end time, and duration of my annotations. And in my time format, if I want it to be the same as my previous CSV, I'm just going to select this, seconds and milliseconds. And I'll press OK. And now I can choose a name for this. I'll name it ELAN Sample CSV. Here you can change the format. You can leave it as a text file, and then you can convert it into a CSV very easily. But I'll just keep it as a CSV right here. Now let me see what it looks like. Here's our CSV. And here are our annotations. Here we have the tier the annotation was. Here we have the participant. Here is the start time, the end time, the duration, and then finally our label / annotation that we added. Awesome. This is amazing. This is exactly what we wanted. Great. Hopefully that clears some things up about ELAN. I hope that you can use this to sync up your time series and videos, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.